Believers, in this podcast or audio message, I want to address the following. When people do not want to become better, when people avoid solutions, when people have the mentality they just want to be left alone, they just want to flee, and when they can't flee, they escalate to be left alone. When people persist in that mindset, eventually they will become extremely dangerous to even be around. Let me give an example. Let's say that you have this 15-year-old girl with narcissistic tendencies. She loves to cause arguments just to get attention, and she always plays the victim. And because she's 15 and she's in her sexual development, her body is shaping into womanhood, she already knows by observing society that she can get away with a lot of crap by using sex as a bait. So she begins to get attention of many simps, and she gets away with causing drama. When she graduates college, she realizes, you know what, I need to have a job, so I can't just cause drama all the time, because if I don't have a job and I don't have a man to rely on, I'll be homeless or whatever. So she behaves herself a little bit because she has no other choice. Now, all the people she has been causing drama with, or people, all her victims that were harmed by her, they still know about her. Some want to get even with her, want to put her in a place, but all of them leave her alone because they don't want to get in trouble with the law. They don't want to go to prison for doing something to her, so they let her go. And she knows that those people don't want to end up in prison, that's why those people will let her go. So she used that also to get away. However, when she's in her 30s, she realized now that younger women than her are preferred above her. So she realized that soon her sexual market value, as they call it in the world, will decrease significantly. Now she'll try to divorce her husband to get sympathy, and it works, and she gets involved with another man that she marries later on. When she's in her 50s, she realized, you know what? I can't even do that anymore, because she realized that if she, as a 50-year-old woman, begins to complain and bitch around to get attention, people just walk away, or people just don't want to hear it. And she has grandchildren now, and the grandchildren don't want anything to do with her. Because the grandchildren, from the time the children, saw through her nonsense. Her own children tolerate her nonsense, but the grandchildren, who were just children, saw through the nonsense. So eventually, both the grandchildren as well as her own children don't want anything to do with her. So now she's ending up alone. And now she's losing her mind. She has nothing left to lose. And because she has nothing left to lose, she doesn't care about consequences anymore, and now she ends up killing people. She works as a volunteer now, baking cookies and making soup, and now she begins to put toxins in the soup and all of that, afflicting harm on other people. She is blaming society for all her evil doing and all the consequences she has to endure. So she thinks it's justified to do this. And eventually, she's arrested and she has to go to prison. And even then, she was playing the victim. Now, that example I gave unto you, which began when this woman was 50 years old and ended with her going to prison for attempted murder at age 55, that's how reprobates progress. It begins with them refusing the truth. It begins with them refusing reality. And the more they persist against reality, the more mentally unstable and the more mentally deranged they become. Now, when they are younger, external consequences that are enforced by society can keep them in check. Not always, but in general it works, because they have something to lose. But the older they become, the less they have to lose. And the less they have to lose, the more dangerous they become. You can have a guy who's 20 years old, and he decided to knock someone out for so-called disrespecting him. He may go to jail for a week, and then or may has to do a community service, and it's over. Now that he's 50, he realizes that if he decides to do that now, Nobody's going to say, well, he had a bad childhood, he was just very stressed and all of that. So now he can't come with any excuse. When he was 20 and he knocked someone out, the judge had sympathy for him, and that's why he didn't go to prison for a year. Instead, he had to do community service. But now he's in his 50s and he does that, he may go to prison for years, especially if he's doing someone that's quite younger than him. And here's another thing, if he knocks someone out who's quite younger than him and envisions to fight back, he's in trouble because he's not in that healthy, strong shape as he was when he was 20. So some reprobates, when they are older, even though they've become worse, they know that they better not get out of line or else. So it's the fright of consequences catching up with them that keeps them in check. Some are so far gone that they don't even care about things catching up with them, they just escalate. But whether someone is still kept in line by the fear of consequences, or they are just escalating because they just don't care anymore, both are dangerous. The one that just wants to escalate, you know to stay away from them because they're openly escalating. But the one who's kept in line by fear, that fear can crash at some point and they escalate also. So just realize that people that always went against God's calling for their lives, because God's calling for every human being is to become born again, and once they're born again, now they are chosen, and once they're chosen, they do the will of the Heavenly Father. When someone refuses to become born again, they refuse to believe the gospel, they refuse to do the will of the Heavenly Father, the longer they do this, the more mentally deranged and more dangerous they become. Some will even fake being born again, fake being believers, just to avoid consequences. Look, there are older people out there who made very dumb decisions in their younger years, but later in life they repented and they still are suffering some of the consequences. For example, if someone used to be a gambler and they gambled all the whole fortune, now they may have repented, but still they won't get that fortune back. If a guy walked away from his family, even though he may have repented, maybe the children won't anything to do with him anymore because, you know what, those children still have to deal with the fact that the father abandoned them. Even though the father is better now, they are still harmed, and even the children have to deal as long as they live with the consequence of the man abandoning them. So the children want anything to do with him. So there are people out there who made very dumb decisions, very selfish, narcissistic attitudes they have when they were younger, but now they're older, they're truly and genuinely better people, and they're ashamed and embarrassed how they used to be, and they're dedicated to use their life as an example to inspire others not to be like they were. You have such people, and such people are valuable. They admit that they weren't the best type of human beings around, but they're happy that they had the opportunity to become better, because they realized that it could have ended worse with them. They could have died earlier during one of their bad behaviors, and they would have been lost. So often such people even become born again later in life, and they serve the Heavenly Father. So you have older people with horrible pasts, but they're far better now because they genuinely became better. But then you also have older people who never really intended to become better. They are just contained out of fear of consequences. They may have grandchildren, and they want the grandchildren to look up to them. They want to be looked up at. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to end up alone and miserable. Now, they are miserable, but they don't want to be miserable alone. They want the sympathy and pity and social and mental investment of others. They depend on that. So they may have grandchildren, and now they want the grandchildren to look up to them. But they have nothing worthy to look up to. So they fake as if they were very decent, hardworking, or very socially acceptable people when they were younger, just so that the grandchildren will look up to them. Their own children may know better, but their children keep their mouth shut just so that the children can enjoy having a grandparent. Or it can be that they don't have children, but they now want to pretend like they're very inspirational figures. They may even lie about things of their past. They may pretend like they were activists against wrongdoing. They may even pretend that they were involved with certain people that are now successful. Or maybe there were people, maybe there was someone in their past that they've mistreated, or looked down upon, and that individual became quite successful after they left them. Some reprobates looked down on some of the people in their life when they were younger, and those same people that looked down upon and that they left later became quite successful after they left. So to everyone else, it will be obvious you left that individual and the individual ended up better. So your presence kept them down, your presence kept them back. So for them now to pretend like they were best buddies with an individual, it will not work, because then people are going to ask, why did you break contact with him if you were best friends? And why now that he is successful, now suddenly you want to be friends with him anymore? So we'll come to see through it. And that individual himself or herself will realize, what? You can't claim that we were best friends? No, it wasn't true. So that's going to backfire also. So they cannot openly take advantage of the success of the individual that they've discarded. Also because they spoke very bad about that individual. It can be that you had this singer that was about to break through, but she was going through a struggle, and she had a lot of her narcissistic associates left her, and they spoke a lot of dumb stuff about her. But after she became successful, now all the dumb stuff they've been telling about her, for them to openly support her now, all the other people they've been speaking dumb about that artist are going to tell them, hold on a minute, you've been talking dumb about this singer all the time. Why are you suddenly friends with them? People are going to see through them. So some reprobates have looked down upon other people, and those people that look down upon have ended up far better than they are, so now they feel humiliated. And this humiliation has ate at their mind. It has eaten. I mean, it has, I would say, it's like sour, it's like acid. It has been burning them and eating them away. They have been devoured by this embarrassment and this humiliation that the individuals that they look down upon end up far better than they are. And here's the thing, when they try to sabotage the individual, after the individual broke through, it didn't work anymore. And then people are going to look at their lives and realize, okay, this other individual you look down upon end up far better. What have you done? So when this humiliation catches up with them in older age, they literally lose their minds and they begin to do things out of line, screaming, shouting. They may even begin to drink a lot or smoke a lot of pot, or screaming on the streets or looking for fights. Or if it's female reprobate, she may even begin to put different hair colors when she's in her 60s, wear short skirts and begin to spread her legs over the place, to hump and even jump on other men, even younger men. So they become quite embarrassing and quite frightening to be around. Why? Because the humiliation, as well as the embarrassment of them looking down on someone, and the same individual that looked down upon and so far better than them, they can't handle it. They really can't handle it. So listen, there are older people out there who indeed have become better. Praise the Lord, they've become better. That's not excuse how they used to be, but they're not how they used to be anymore. And now they're older. Their father can use that to rectify the stupid things they've been doing. But there are also people out there who have no intention whatsoever of ever admitting that they were even wrong to begin with. They just want to escape consequences. Beware of such people. Beware. So, just beware of the following red flags. These red flags are quite common. They're so common that people often overlook them. For example, if you see an older woman, she's in her 50s and going towards her 60s and older, and she's all by herself, no children, grandchildren, or no nieces, no nephews, no relatives, nor friends around, I'm telling you, there's a big chance you're dealing with a bitter narcissist. Let me explain why. Females are designed, it's in their design to be social and to be around other people. Females need psychic income. That is emotional and mental sponsorship of the community. That's how women are built. From a very young age, you can see the attention seeking in little girls, because that's how the woman is designed. She needs psychic income. So every woman, from the time they're little girls, they look for psychic income. That is how they are built. And even when a woman is not really the most socially sophisticated or socially advanced human to be around, even if she's a bit socially awkward, she still craves psychic income. And eventually, most women want to be embraced by the community, so they adapt to be accepted by the community. That's feminine nature. Even some of the bad women, I would say bad in the sense that they are fleeing all the time, even they realize they need to behave in order to have people around them. So when you find a woman beyond mid-40s and she has no friends, almost no relative visits her. Now, unless she recently became born again and now she's going through retaliation of the world, that's different. Or if she used to be a scapegoat and finally she got delivered, that's different. But if it's not that she is a believer that's going through retaliation, then ask yourself, why is she so alone? Why is it that nobody wants to deal with her? Because women, because the fact they're women, they tend to get away with a lot of stuff in the world, especially when they're younger. When they're younger and they are in their sexual prime, a lot of men overlook their nonsense because they may have a chance to lay with her. And there are a lot of women that will take advantage of this, and it works. But here's the thing, once they become older and their sexual attractiveness, according to the world, fades, now men are not going to put up that much with them anymore. Now they can't use sex as a leverage anymore. And a lot of women, even bad ones, made sure that when they were in their prime, they got a man, even though he's a simp, they got a man that they could stay with. And society doesn't want to be bothered by their drama, so society endorses them being with a man long term. That's why you have the wedlock. I already explained about the wedlock before in other videos. So when you encounter a woman beyond mid-40s and she's quite isolated or she's quite socially distant, beware. I'm not saying that every woman that's like this is automatically a bitter, deranged creep, but it's likely, very likely, you're dealing with a bitter, deranged creep. Another thing, if you find a man and almost all of his friends are younger people, this is not something wrong. If you have a guy in his 40s and he's a veteran and he's good in mechanical stuff and he encounters many young people, young men in their 20s, want to learn from him, he can develop strong bonds with them. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you have a man who only exclusively deals with younger people, ask yourself why. Ask yourself why nobody of his age is around him. I mean, if he's in his 40s or 50s or older, there must be people around who know them. We're all of a similar age. How come none of his peers want anything to do with him? That should be a red flag. Now, some of you had relatives like this, whether it was your own father or grandfather or uncle or whoever it was, that was quite reserved on their own, and you thought when you were a child, well, Uncle Ted is just more on his own, he keeps himself to himself, he's more a business-like. You made a lot of excuses for it. But now that you're older, you know that something's off with that man. Maybe that man passed away already, and because he passed away, you don't want to speak ill of the dead. But let me tell you, it's good to reflect and examine people, even if they passed away. Look, if someone, especially men, if they only have people around them that are younger than them, and they only are interested in having contact with people that are younger than them, that's often a red flag. If you have a man who's beyond the age of 90, and most of the people of his age passed away, now then it's understandable that he's likely around the younger people. But if someone is 50 and they only want to talk to people who are 20 or 30, then there is something about them that they're hiding. There's something about them that older people can see that they don't want you to see, because it's a fact. When you're in your teens or in your 20s, there are certain things you don't notice about people. Look, I'm 29 now, okay? I'm quite advanced in examining situations. There are things that I notice now that I wouldn't have noticed when I was 14. When you're in your teens and in your early 20s, there are certain things you just don't notice about people. But the longer you live, the more you begin to realize that, okay, let me give an example. Let's say you have someone that complains about let's say you have a woman that complains that her father abandoned the family and she was traumatized by it. And she claims that no matter what happened, she ended up well. And you praise her for her courage that she made something of her life. But then you realize that, hold on a minute, why is she still single then? Now, if you're 18, 19, 20, you may think, oh, she didn't find the right one yet, or maybe she's not ready, blah, blah, blah. But let's say you're 30 now, and you realize, hold on a minute. Generally speaking, women have a short span of their fertility that they can have children, they can build a family. If that span of fertility passes, it'll be very hard for them to get pregnant. And it's within this span of fertility that they're considered the most attractive. So their sexual prime is very short-lived, biologically speaking. Now, there are some women whose youth is renewed till old age. That also happens, but in general, women have their mid-teen, from the time they have their first menstrual cycle till the day they go into what they call the menopause in order to give birth to babies. And it's during this time that they are the most sexually accessible of their whole lifetime. And that's why most women want to catch a man before they're 25. So when you're 18, 19, and you see that you have this woman who complains about, not really complain, but she talks about what she went through as a child that affected her, but now she's better, you look at her different than when you're 30 and you hear a similar story. When you're 30 and you hear a similar story, you have more life experience, you realize, but hold on a minute. If a woman only has a limited amount of years to get pregnant and to start a family, why is this woman still single while she talks about she wants a husband and all of that? Then you can realize, if you're 30, you can realize, hold on a minute, this woman doesn't end up. She's contradicting herself. So when you're younger, in your teens or early 20s, you just came out of childhood. Being adult is something very new. You have to adapt. So there are certain things you don't consider about people. You tend to make more excuses for people when you're in your teens or early 20s. Thinking, oh, maybe it's just a phase they're going through, or maybe it's just the way they are, or whatever. There's also an excuse we often make for people. But the longer you live, when you are approaching your 30s, you realize, hold on a minute. No, this isn't true. And that is why narcissists, when they're approaching 30, they begin to lose a lot of their friends and a lot of the people they use as supply. Because here's the thing, narcissists are people that are stuck in a conflict. And this conflict is something they're stuck at permanently. Now, they can get out of it, but most will not get out of it. But here's the thing, because they're stuck in this conflict, and if you stay with them, you will encounter the same conflict over and over again. If they're complaining about their parents, eventually they'll stop complaining about their parents, but then they'll start complaining about their spouse. Then they'll complain about their children. Then they'll complain about this and that. So eventually you realize, okay, this individual is always complaining, but when are they talking about solutions? So after several years, you realize, it has been 10 years already. This individual just doesn't want solutions. This individual just wants to violate others and play the victim. And once you see this, you lose interest in being around them and you begin to walk away from them. Most narcissists lose their friends and sometimes even family when they're around their 30s or sometimes in their 40s, early 40s. Because eventually people see through it. Look, if you're 20 years old or 22 and you're still recovering from childhood trauma, people can understand it. And if you're not at your best when you're in your early 20s, hey, you're just in your early 20s. You still have to ac- uh, adapt to adulthood and to all the challenges that comes in life. People can get it, but if you are in your 30s, people think, this is a bit odd. You have time to adapt to adulthood, to what goes on here. If you're in your 40s, people won't accept it anymore. If you're in your 50s, people just walk away. A 15-year-old that always that has a temper, in a sense that he doesn't want to hear anything that he doesn't want to hear. People can say, "Hey, stop acting like a brat. Learn to be patient and flexible with other people." But if you have a 50-year-old that operates that way, people say, "Hey, don't talk like the individual. Just leave him." When narcissists are young, they get away with a lot of stuff. Not everything, but a lot of stuff they can get away with. The older they become, the less willing people are to tolerate their nonsense and their violence. So, people that don't want to face solutions, they don't want to face reality, just want to escape and escalate, the older they become, the worse off they are. And such people sometimes will even pretend to be role models just to ruin your future. You have aging narcissists that they have ruined their own lives and now want to ruin the lives of others. So they may even approach you and act like a mentor, but they're really giving you bad advice to sabotage you. Some of you had parents around you that were sabotaging you. It's only when you were older you realized, "Wait a minute, mom and dad were setting me up." Others around you noticed it from the start, but they were afraid to tell you because they were so attached to your parents. Look, older people are valuable as a source of information. Even if they are narcissists, you can learn from them, namely what not to do. But anyone that's older than you, the older they are, ask yourself what type of individual they are. If they've lived longer than you and they've experience and they're willing to be constructive with it, okay, then you can honor them. But if they're not honorable, they just want to sabotage you, or they just want to play the victim, or just want to exploit you and drain you, then shake the dust off your feet and move on. Don't put yourself in harm's way by honoring an older individual that shouldn't be honored. Well, that's all for this video. Beware who you submit onto. Be at peace.